Hi, welcome to The Mix, the Teen Center at the San Francisco Public Library. My name is Ileana, and I am your hostess with the mostest for the STEM Challenge Yourself series. In this series, our librarians come up with creative experiments that you can try at home. In today's challenge, you are going to experiment with a vegetable for some chemistry fun. So, I'm going to let the challenge master walk you through the science, but it's going to be very colorful. I think you're up for the challenge. Ready?
Thanks, Ileana. Hi, everyone. I'm Librarian Anita, and today's question is, can you make a color-changing liquid that measures pH? What is pH, anyway? Well, I will tell you. I'm going to show you how to make a magical color-changing solution. I'm going to explain some of the chemistry behind it, and I'm going to give you some suggestions for using it. These are the ingredients that you will need. First of all, you will need a red cabbage. You'll actually only need a little bit of red cabbage, so you can share some leaves with your friends or cut it up and eat it for dinner. You will also need a couple of glass jars that can hold boiling water, a strainer, some measuring cups and spoons. I have here a 1/4 cup measuring cup and a couple of teaspoons. And you will need 3 small glasses, small clear glasses, so that you can see your experimental color changing in progress. You will also need some things to test, and my suggestions for you are some distilled white vinegar and some baking soda, because these are some things that are pretty easily available. You might already have them in your kitchen cabinet. You will also need some paper towels just in case you need to clean up any spills. And because this challenge works with boiling water, you will need an adult to help you boil the water and assist with any other things that might come up. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is take a piece of the red cabbage leaf and chop it up just with my fingers. Rip it into little tiny bits. What I have found is that you actually don't need very much of this. It does take a little while to rip it up, but I have been having a good luck with just a 1/4 cup. And here is a sample that I've already made, so you don't have to watch me rip up cabbage for 5 minutes. Which leads me to comment that if you're doing this along with me at home, it's okay to pause the video here and wait until you've ripped up your cabbage. Get a 1/4 cup of little tiny cabbage pieces, and then you can unpause the video and come back to where we're at now. Next, you're going to take one of your empty jars, place your 1/4 cup of cabbage in there, and then you will need some boiling water. I've boiled mine in this kettle here. You can use anything, but please make sure that your adult helps you with this boiling water part. I'm going to pour in about a cup, a little more than a cup of water. And I'm going to set this aside to cool until it's room temperature. I have here an example that I made just an hour ago. And as you can see, we've got a beautiful purple liquid for experimenting. I'm going to take this liquid and strain it into my other jar. If you don't have a strainer, you can just very carefully pour off the cabbage water and leave the leaves behind. But since I have a strainer, I'm going to use it. There we go. And now we're ready to experiment with it. This is edible, but I don't recommend that you drink it or taste it. We made it for looks, not for taste. I'm going to take a 1/4 cup and pour a 1/4 cup of my solution into each of these 3 glasses. And now it's time to experiment. Let's try distilled white vinegar. I'm going to take a teaspoon of distilled white vinegar and stir it into one of these glasses. I'll choose this one to see what happens. This one I'm going to leave untouched. This is going to be our control, is what they call it in a scientific experiment. It's the sample that we don't do anything to, and we compare the other stuff to see what happens. Let's see what happens when we add in the vinegar. Abracadabra. Now, that is a gorgeous shade of pink, isn't it? Let's see what happens with our next ingredient. I'm going to take a clean teaspoon, a different one, and measure out a teaspoon of baking soda. Here we go. Abracadabra. Whee! And now we've got a beautiful pale blue. So what is going on here? In order to explain, I will need to tell you a little bit about acids and bases. So acids, think about things that taste tangy and sour, like orange juice and lemon juice. That tangy sour taste is because our lemon juice is an acid. And acids are substances that have a lot of hydrogen ions floating around in them. Ions are little tiny pieces of molecules, little bits of matter, and hydrogen ions are positively charged. And that is what makes an acid do what an acid does. A base is kind of like the opposite of acids. They are made up with a lot of hydroxide ions in them, which are these chemical symbols over here, which are negatively charged, little pieces of matter that are negatively charged. And they act differently than acids. They're kind of opposite to acids. And baking soda happens to be a base. There are other bases that you might encounter in your daily life, things like ammonia and bleach. Some household cleaners are bases, and also soap. Water is right in between. Pure water that doesn't have anything else in it has both hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions, and it's balanced with the two. So we would call this neutral. It is chemically neutral. Next, I want to talk about the pH scale. The pH scale is like a ruler to measure how acidic or basic something is. It starts at 0 and goes to 14. And in between 0 and 7, we have acidic substances, with the most acidic substances at 0. Water is in the middle at number 7, which is neutral. And at the other end, between 7 and 14, we have bases, with 14 being the most basic. So here we have cabbage water, what we've just made here. And you can see, here's our pH 7. It looks like maybe our vinegar is like a pH of 4. And maybe our base maybe is a 9 or a 10 in there. So now that you have your cabbage water, you can do all kinds of different experimenting at home and figure out what's an acid and what's a base. Raid the fridge, see what kind of things you can find in your fridge to test and stir into the cabbage water. What would pickle juice be like? What would ketchup be like? With your adults' help, you can also try things such as ammonia and bleach, which I already said were going to be bases, and we'll give you the other end of the spectrum. Please, if you're doing any kind of experimentation with household chemicals like that, make sure to wear eye protection and gloves, and always do it with a parent's supervision. Thank you so much for joining me today. Back to you, Ileana.
Thanks, Anita. So we covered some acids, bases, and the pH scale in a very, very vibrant experiment. Be sure to check in with your adult if you wanted to take this experiment to the next level. For more tips and tricks and the resource list on this STEM challenge and other STEM challenges, be sure to check out sfpl.org/STEM challenge. Keep experimenting and stay STEM-tastic.